some things you're going to want to be aware of just to make sure everything goes correctly. Now, I'll just let you know, I'll qualify this by saying that Ashley and John already followed the recipe. They took all their dry ingredients, including their fat, and put it in the bowl, and they put in about half a quart of water. They're doing a single batch. Okay. I would probably recommend that we actually get the dry and the fat together first, and get that to sort of a cornmeal consistency, and then add our water little by little. But because it's already in there, we're not going to try to fish it out. But it should work just fine. Generally, what we're looking to do here is take all the dry, all the fat, and half the water, and make a paste. And because the water's already in there, Ashley, go ahead and start. We're just going to do it at speed 1 to start with, because
4 minutes, right?
Yeah, 4 minutes.
Okay. Where's the flour?
And we're doing it slowly at first because we don't want to have splash all over the place. It will start to splash everywhere. As soon as you see it start to come together as a paste, watch it up to speed 2. Because it does call.
Is that what you're calling a paste?
Yeah, what's it calling a paste?
It's like tasting it.
I would put all your dry ingredients and your fat together. So that's your sugar, butter, salt, shortening, cake flour, baking powder all together. And then mix those together in a paddle for a couple of minutes, get that all mixed, and then add the water. And that way you won't get splashes, you also get pretty good mixing. But even though they have the water already, it'll be okay for a little bit. It's going to just mix now as a paste. It's going to form a paste. And that paste needs to go for 4 minutes. What's happening in here is that we're getting a couple things done. First of all, we're kind of creaming. We're also blending it together, and we're forming gluten as much as we can. There's not a lot of gluten to get. We're using cake flour. So the cake flour is going to be minimal gluten as it is. Plus there's all that fat, which will shorten the gluten even more. But we're going to get what we can out of it, because we need some. That's going to go for 4 solid minutes. And it's pretty critical that we keep going for 4 minutes. Really time it. Make sure that it's going for that amount of time. If you're using the cake mix, like I mentioned before, if you were using this, it has very specific instructions too. It says to go for 2 minutes with half the water. But they're very specific about that. If you don't do that, it will not come out correctly. It really won't. I mean, I've had disasters with cake mixes just because I haven't followed the directions. Once we get past that 4-minute interval, we're going to start adding the eggs, the remaining water, and the vanilla into this mixture. Now we can mix those all together ahead of time. They can be in one big container, but you're going to mix them in 3 parts over a course of 6 minutes. So over a course of 6 minutes, you need to get all that water in there, all that liquid in there. That can be challenging because remember, this thing's cruising at medium speed. If you put it in a little too fast, what's going to happen? Yeah, in your face, right? It's going to be all over the place. So you're going to find it to be somewhat challenging to get all that liquid in there in a 6-minute time frame. But keep working at it. Be steady, little by little, get it in there. It will eventually come together into a nice smooth batter. But it needs to do that. It needs to come together that way. Over 6 minutes, getting all the liquid in there. And once it's together as a batter, you're ready to dispense. Before you start mixing, what mise en place might you want to take care of before you can start mixing?
Grease your pans.
Grease your pans. Paper on the bottom of the pans, right? Use some of the same shortening to grease your pans. Grease around the sides, paper on the bottom. Once they're ready, it's great because then you can start mixing and you can go right into dispensing, right into the oven. You don't have to worry about any delay or anything like that. If it sits and delays while you're getting your paper done, it could be, some time while that baking powder is actually starting to leaven your product before you actually get it in the pan.
Why do you put the sheet on the bottom of that pan instead of grease?
Well, the grease is good, but the grease isn't quite enough. When you go to release it, what you'll find without the paper is that it may stick to the bottom of the pan, and then you may find you have a big hole taken out of your cake. So the paper just guarantees that it'll release.
What size pan should we use?
I would recommend, let's use up all the 8-inch that we can. 10 inches are fine. You can even go to larger ones if you want.
So with our batter,
with yours, you'll probably get, I'm guessing probably a few 8s, maybe a 10. Yeah, we'll see how that works out. If you need an extra, if you have a little extra batter, you can make it 6 if you want.
So with the 6, what are we looking at?
Then you're looking at quite a bit more cakes. You probably get as many as, I saw some people getting as many as like a couple of 10s, a couple of 8s, a few 6s. You know, they were getting quite a bit of cake out of it. A couple people made 14s yesterday. And those 14s I actually ordered those by request to be used for the Marine Corps cake I'm doing.
Right.
But they actually got even more cake out of it besides the 14s.
Wow.
You know,
So like we're looking at probably 2 10s, 2 8s.
Yeah, maybe a 6 as an extra just for extra scrapings that are at the bottom of the bowl. But you're going to find you get quite a bit of cake. It's really hard to predict because it depends on, you know, quite a few factors and how much batter you're actually making. But this does call for sheet pans, and that's hard to translate sometimes. Next thing we're doing is we're going to be going back to medium speed, and I would scrape down first though. Go ahead and scrape all that down, get any ingredients down in there, and then we're going to bring it back to medium speed, and we're going to start adding our liquid little by little to get it all in there within 6 minutes, if we can.
6 minutes.
It doesn't mention here not to overmix, but it is a good idea always to think about overmixing. You don't want to overmix if you can help it. You know, overmixing just causes other things to start happening, physical things to start happening in your dough. Things that were forming an emulsion, things that were coming together, can start separating. You can start getting curdling if you overmix, and that can also lead to some of the disasters we had yesterday, which included, you know, things like total separation. Jerry?
The recipe says a cup of whole egg.
Yeah.
How many eggs are in a cup?
About 5.
I got 4 on line.
4? You got 7. So I guess it depends on. I would get a cup measure or something or a quarter of a quart container, and just put eggs in there until you get up to about a quarter full of the quart container.
Okay.
This is an old-fashioned recipe that still has some volume measures on it, and I personally don't like using that. I'd rather go to the Book of Yields and find out how many eggs by weight we really need. But you know, when it really comes down to it, this is just an old-fashioned recipe, and it works. You know, it works, even though it does have some volume measures left on it. Thank goodness it doesn't have the shortening as a volume measure. That's always a real drag, having to pack shortening into a container.
You have the facts, right? Come on, Johnny. You kind of need it. Close. Very close.
I was having to ask something.
Go, now, go. 6 minutes.
You're stressing them out. The eggs, the water, and the eggs, all the stuff we want.
6 minutes. Go.
Put all this together.
Oh, it's 5.5 now. Nothing quickly, come on.
If it starts splattering, just hold off for a little bit, but it won't work.
It's gonna go in your face.
It's your fault. Wait, they're not looking at me.
It's gonna go all over this.
Yeah. We'll take it off and put it through the machine. Again, if you start getting splatters, what you do is you back off a little until it mixes in. You get more splatters. So keep adding little by little, trying to deal with the splatters. Because it will splatter quite a bit.
Getting that splatter action.
Yes, I am.
I like it.
Okay, about the middle of the way here, I'd go ahead and get started and stuff and scrape down, just to make sure. This is the kind of recipe that doesn't hurt to scrape down. If you stop and scrape down, it's really good for the ingredients to get well mixed. And while he's working here, for those of you who can see in the bowl, there's a really thick lining of fat around the outside of the bowl. That thick lining is all fat that should be mixed in. And if it waits to the end, it may not get mixed in properly. And then what happens is you end up perhaps with big chunks of fat floating around in your batter. And that can cause real problems when it comes to the baking process. So, scraping down, I always like to say, if you're in doubt, scrape down. You know, it's always a good thing. Just make sure that you get good ingredient incorporation.
In doubt, throw it out.